Once again, I welcome to RM Classroom. So in the last class, I have discussed about the clause related to the compressive strength of the concrete and flexural strength of the concrete and modulus of elasticity, short-term modulus of elasticity and long-term modulus of elasticity. And after that, I have discussed the clause related to the how to compute the target strength. And after that, I have solved problems based on this clause. So today, I will discuss the clause that is related to the firstly the effective span of beam or slab, and after that I will discuss the deflection criteria and after for the beam and slab, and after that I will discuss that the effective width of flange for the T section and L section. So let us start about the general design consideration. So firstly, I will talk about the fire resistance. So generally, appropriate cover of steel is provided against the fire resistance, and minimum width of the beam according to the IS 456 code. The minimum width of the beam that should be used for fire resistance is 200 mm, and the for the fire resistance of the minimum width is suggested by the IS 456 2000 for different fire resistance duration, that is 0.5 hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 1.5 hour, 3 hour, and 4 hour. And here we can see that the for 0.5 hour the minimum width of the beam is suggested by IS 456 is 200 mm, and for the fire resistance of 4 hour it is 280 mm. After that, the effective span can be computed by or suggested by the IS 456. So for simply supported beam or slab. So for simply supported beam, let us assume this is our simply supported beam. Here LC is the clear span and W is the width of the support, and capital B is the width of the beam, and small d is the effective depth of the beam. So code suggests that for simply supported beam or slab, the effective span is equal to the sum of clear span plus width of the support, or sum of clear span plus effective depth, whichever is less. And for the other types of beam, like for continuous beam or slab, so for the continuous beam or support, IS code suggested the two cases when our width of the support is less than 1 by 12 of the clear span, or our width of the support is greater than 1 by 12 of the clear span or 600 mm, whichever is less. So once our width of the support is less than 1 by 12 of the clear span, then effective span of the continuous beam is same as the effective span of the simply supported beam, that is sum of clear span plus width of the support, or sum of the clear span plus effective depth of the beam, whichever is less. But if the second case exists, that is width of the support is greater than 1 by 12 of the clear span of the beam or 600 mm, whichever is less, then once again there are so many sub cases, like when one end is fixed and other end is continuous, or both end is continuous. In that case, our effective span will be equal to the clear span. And if one end is continuous and other end is simply supported, then effective span is equal to the sum of clear span plus W by half the width of the support, or sum of clear span plus half the effective depth, whichever is less. So we can see that for a simply supported beam, code suggests that the effective span is equal to sum of clear span plus width of the support, or sum of the clear span plus depth of the beam, whichever is less. For continuous beam, I told you that if width of the support is less than 1 by 12 of the clear span, then effective span is same as the simply supported beam. But our width of the support is greater than 1 by 12 of the clear span or 600 mm, whichever is less, then L effective should be is equal to the clear span when one end is fixed and other end is continuous, or both end is continuous, as I told you earlier, or L clear plus half the width of the support or half the depth of the support, whichever is less, when one end is continuous and other end is simply supported. So here we can see that the this is one end is fixed and other these two supports are continuous support, and this is the simply support, and this is the fixed support. So we can see that the if our case when our width of the support width of the support is greater than 1 by 12 of the clear span or 600 mm, whichever is less, then we can see that for this case the effective span one end is fixed and other end is continuous. So in this case our effective span should be equal to the clear span. Similarly for this case, when both end is continuous, so once again the effective length will be equal to the clear span. But here we can see that one end is continuous and other end is simply supported. So in this case our effective span will be sum of clear span plus W by 2 or clear span plus half the effective depth of the beam, whichever is less. So here we can see that I have written for this portion, so portion 1, portion 2 and portion 3. So for portion 1 and portion 2 our effective span will be equal to the clear span, and for portion 3 we can see that effective span is equal to the sum of clear span plus half the width of the support or half the effective depth of the beam. And for the cantilever beam, IS code suggests that the codal provision is the effective span is equal to the clear span plus half the effective depth. So let us take the problem based on the effective span of the beam. So a simply supported reinforced concrete beam having the clear span of 5 meter and support width is 300 mm has the cross section as shown in the figure. So what is the effective span of the beam as per IS 456-2000? So our options are 5300 mm, 5400 mm, 5200 mm and 5150 mm. So this is the cross section of the beam is given, and a simply supported beam. So we know that in case of simply supported beam, our effective span as per the IS 456 is sum of the clear span plus width of the support or clear span plus effective depth of the beam, whichever is less. So let us assume this is our simply supported beam, and the clear span is given, it is 5 meter the clear span, and width of the support is 300 mm. This is also 300 mm, and the cross section of the beam is given. So the effective depth is 400 mm, 400 mm, and width of the beam is 250. So it is 250 mm. So for simply supported beam, as per IS 456-2000, if L effective is equal to clear span plus width of the support or clear span plus effective depth of the beam, whichever is less. So our effective span will be from the center. So this is our effective span. So we can compute the effective span. L effective is equal to clear span is 5 meter, means 5000 plus 300 or 5000 plus the depth of the beam is 400 effective depth, so it is 400, whichever is less. So this is 5300 and 5400. So the effective span of the simply supported beam is 5300 mm. So it will be 5300. So A option is correct. Let us take the another question. So a reinforced concrete slab with effective depth of 80 mm is simply supported at the two opposite ends on 230 mm thick masonry wall. The center to center distance between the wall is 3.3 meter. So as per the IS 456-2000, the effective span of the slab is. So once again we have to compute the effective span of the slab, but one thing we have to remember that effective span for a simply supported beam is the sum of clear span plus width of the support or clear span plus effective depth of the beam, whichever is less. So it is given, the effective depth is given in the question, it is 80 mm, and width of the support is also given, small w is equal to 230 mm, and L the center to center distance is given, center to center distance is given 3.3 meter. So if I compute the clear span, so clear span LC is equal to center distance between walls minus width of the support, W by 2 and W by 2. So we can compute the clear span is equal to 3300 minus 3.3 meter means 3300 minus width of the support is 230. So width of the support is 230. So it will be 3300 minus 3300 minus 230. So it will be 3070 mm. So it is 3070 mm. So the effective span of the simply supported beam is L clear plus W or L clear plus D, whichever is less. So we can compute 3070 plus width of the support is 230 or clear span is 3070 plus effective depth is 80 mm. So if I compute the value, so it will be 3070 plus 80, so it will be 3150 mm, whichever is less. So the effective span of the beam is 3.15 meter. So 3150 in meter we have to compute the value, so it will be 3.15 meter of the effective span of the simply supported beam. So effective depth of the beam is the distance between the maximum compression fiber and the centroid of the tension reinforcement is called effective depth. And as per IS 456-2000, a slab is assumed to act as a compression flange of a T-beam or L-beam must be cast monolithically with the web or bonded firmly together. So we have to find the effective width of the flange for the T-beam or L-beam. So two cases suggested by the IS 456-2000. First case is for the beam plus slab type and the second one is isolated beam. So for beam plus slab type, the effective width of the T-beam is suggested by IS code is L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 DF, where L0 is the distance between the zero moments or distance between the point of contraflexure, and BW is the width of web or rib, and DF is the depth of the thickness of the slab or depth of the beam. So we can see that I have cutted the section, so it will be look like this. So this is the case of beam plus slab type. This is called T beam and this is L beam. So and this is the adjacent length, L1 and L2 is the adjacent length of the beam, and BF is the effective width of the flange, and this is this portion is called, if I see you, so this portion is called web, sorry, this portion is called flange and this portion is called web. And here BW is the width of web or rib. Web is also called rib, and here we can see that the DF is the depth of flange or depth of thickness of slab. So if I compute according to IS 456, the effective width of the flange in case of beam plus slab type and T section. So according to this, the effective width is L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 DF. So here we can see that effective width of the flange for the T beam is L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 DF, where BW is the width of web or rib, and DF is the thickness of slab or thickness of flange, and L0 is the distance between point of zero moment or distance between the point of contraflexure. And one thing we have to remember, that this effective width of the flange can never exceed the value of this. So the maximum possible value is this, and beyond this we cannot take the value of effective width of flange, and it will be limited to BW plus L1 by 2 plus L2 by 2. So here I have written that effective width of the flange BF in no case greater than the width of the beam plus or width of the wave plus half the sum of the clear distance of the adjacent beam on either side. Similarly, for L beam, the effective width of the flange will be L0 by 12 plus BW plus 3 DF, and it should not exceed the value of BW plus L1 by 2. Similarly, here I have already told about the notation. So BF is the effective width of a flange, and BW is the width of web, and it is also called width of web or rib. Similarly, DF is the depth of flange, and L0 is the distance between point of zero moment in the beam. And this is the isolated T beam, and this is called isolated L beam. So IS 456 suggested the separate value of effective width of the flange for isolated T beam and isolated L beam. So for isolated T beam, the effective width of the flange is L0 by L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, and in case of L beam it will be 0.5 L0 by L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, where B is the actual width of the isolated T beam and isolated L beam. So here we can see that in case of isolated T beam, the effective width of the flange is L0 by L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, and this width of the effective width of the flange should be less than equal to B. Similarly, in case of L beam, so we can see that the effective width of the flange is 0.5 L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, where the symbols are BF is the effective width of the flange and L0 is the distance between points of zero moment in the beam, and BW is the width of web or rib. For continuous beam, the L0 value may be taken as the 0.7 times the effective span. So code says that for continuous beam and frames, L0 may be assumed as 0.7 times the effective span. So let us take the one problem. So with the help of this problem, we can easily understand how to compute the effective width of the flange in case of beam plus slab type or either isolated T-beam. So this question is asked in GATE 1998. An isolated T-beam is used as walkway. The beam is simply supported with effective span of 6 meters, and the effective width of the flange for the cross section shown in the figure is. So we have to find the effective width of the flange. Actual width of the flange is given, it is 1000, and for it will be depth of the flange is 500 mm, and overall depth of the beam is 600 mm, and the width of the wave or rib is 300 mm. So we know that according to IS 456 2000, according to IS 456 2000, code says that effective width of the flange in case of isolated T beam is L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, and this effective width of the flange should be less than equal to B. In no case it will exceed to the value of B. So this is the effective width of flange in case of isolated beam. Here capital B is given, it is 1000 mm. BW is given, we can see that BW is 300 mm. So BW is 300 mm. So if I compute the value of effective width of flange in case of isolated T beam, so as per IS 456 we have seen that the expression of effective width of the flange is L0 by L0 by B plus 4 plus BW, where L0 is the distance between point of zero moment, and B is the actual width of the flange, and BW is the width of wave or rib. So BF can be computed as L0 is 6000 divided by 6000 divided by 1000 plus 4 plus BW is 300. So it will be 6 plus 4 10, so 600 plus 300, so it will be 900 mm. So if I see the option, so 900 mm is the effective width of flange. Let us take the another question. So this question is asked in ESC 1996. A T-beam roof section has the following particulars. Thickness of slab is 100 mm, width of rib is 300 mm, depth of T-beam is 500 mm, and center to center distance of the beam is 3 meter, and effective span of the beam is 6 meter, and distance between point of contraflexure is 3.6 meter, and the effective width of the flange we have to find. So if I make the T-beam, So if I see the thickness of slab is 100 mm, so this value is 100, and width of rib is 300, so this is 300 mm. All dimensions are in mm. Similarly, the depth of beam is 500, so overall depth is 500. So if I compute, this is the case of beam plus slab type, because it is not the isolated T-beam. So in case of beam plus slab type, we can see that as per IS 456-2000, for beam plus slab type, BF is equal to L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 into DF, and in no case it will be greater than BW plus L1 plus L2 by 2, and in no case BF should not be greater than BW plus L1 by 2 plus L2 by 2. So firstly we have to compute the value of BF. So it will be effective width of the flange. So distance between point of zero moment, it is given how much? So it will be 3.6 meter. Distance between point of zero moment or contraflexure is 3.6 meter. It means 3600. So 3600 by 6 plus BW. So BW is 300. So 300 plus 6 into L0 by 6 plus BW plus 6 DF. So 6 into DF is 100. So it will be 600 plus 300 plus 600, means effective width of the flange is 1500 mm, and we have to also check whether this value is exceed this value or not. So the maximum possible value is, if I compute the value of BW plus L1 by 2 plus L2 by 2, so it will be 300 plus effective span of the beam, and center to center distance of the beam is given 3 meters. So it will be L1 and L2. Center to center distance is given. So 3 meter means 3000. So 3000 divided by 2 plus 3000 divided by 2. So it will be 3300 mm. So here 1500 mm is less than 3300 mm, so it is okay. So BF is less than 3300 mm, it means okay. So our answer is effective width of the flange is 1500 mm. So it will be D option is correct. Now another codal provision according to clause 23.2, the control of deflection. So code says that the final deflection due to all loads including the effect of temperature, creep and shrinkage, and measure from as the cast level of the support of floors, roofs and all other horizontal members should not normally exceed the span by 250. So one thing we have to remember, that this is the final deflection due to the all loads including the effect of temperature, creep and shrinkage, and the value is should not be exceed the value of span by 250. Similarly, code also says that the deflection including the effect of temperature, creep and shrinkage occurring after the erection of partition and the application of finishes should not exceed the span by 350 mm or 20 mm, whichever is less. So should not normally exceed by span by 350 or 20 mm, whichever is less. So we have to remember this. The final deflection is span by 250, and the deflection due to the including the effect of temperature and shrinkage and creep, it should not exceed the span by 350 or 200 mm, whichever is less. Similarly, the code also says that the vertical deflection limit may generally be assumed to be satisfied provided that the span to effective depth ratio. So code says that for span up to 10 meter and for in case of cantilever beam, the span to effective depth ratio should be equal to 7. Similarly, for the simply supported beam, for the if span to effective depth ratio should be 10, 20, and for the continuous it will be 26. And once the span is greater than 10 meter, then we have to find the this ratio for the simply supported and continuous beam, like L by D for the simply supported is 20 into 10 by span, and for the continuous it will be 26 into 10 by span. So we can see that for simply supported beam, L by D is equal to 20 when our simply supported span is less than 10 meter, and for the continuous it will be 26, and for the span greater than 10 meter, so it will be L by D is equal to 20 into 10 by span, and for the continuous beam it will be 26 into 10 by span, and this value is called A value. Further modification factor is applied. Code suggests that depending upon the tension reinforcement, the value of A, means this value can be modified by multiplying a factor called modification factor, and this modification factor can be computed by the graph. Code has given the graph between the modification factor and percentage tension reinforcement on the x-axis and modification factor on the y-axis for different value of Fs, where Fs is the value code suggests that 0.58 Fy by area of steel required by area of steel provided. So we can see that here the effective or this is the curve that is given by suggested by the code, modification factor versus percent tension reinforcement for different Fs value, where Fs is the as I told you 0.58 Fy by area of steel required by area of steel provided. So once we have computed the Fs and percentage tension reinforcement, so corresponding we can compute the modification factor, and this modification factor should be multiplied to this value. Either this is called A value. If in case of simply supported beam it will be 20 into 10 by span, or in case of continuous beam it will be 26 into 10 by span if this value is greater than 10 meter. Otherwise we have to take the value of 20 and 26 once the span is less than 10 meter. So we can see that the Fs is steel stress of service load in Newton per mm square, and we can see that this is the expression to compute the Fs. Further, this modification, another modification factor is applied and multiplied to this A value. So depending upon the area of compression reinforcement, value A can be further modified using the modification factor MF2, and the curve is given another IS code given the another curve, that is the on between the modification factor 2 and the percent compression reinforcement. Here we can see that, and with the help of this compression reinforcement we can read the value of modification factor 2, and this value should be multiplied to the modified A value. So here we can see that this is the effective depth is equal to, or span by effective depth is equal to A into MF1 into MF2, and as I told you, A is the value for simply supported beam it will be 20, and for the continuous beam it will be 26 once our span is less than 10 meter, or if the span is greater than 10 meter, then the value will be 20 into 10 by span and 26 into 10 by span for the simply supported and continuous beam respectively. So let us take the one problem based on this deflection criteria. So a simply supported beam has an effective span of 16 meters. What is the limiting ratio of span to effective depth as per IS 456-2000? So this question is asked in ESE 2012. So if I solve this, so we can see that as per IS 456 our span is greater than 6 meter for simply supported beam, and one thing we have to also remember that L is greater than 10 meter. If our L is less than 10 meter, then directly the span to effective depth ratio is 20, but however here the span is greater than 10 meter, so in that case code suggests that the value of L by D is equal to 20 into 10 by span. So it will be 20 into 10 by span is 16 meter, so the value is 200 by 16, 200 divided by 16, so it is coming 12.5. So one thing we have to remember that whether our span is less than 10 meter or greater than 10 meter, if our span is less than 10 meters. So for simply supported beam, the ratio of span to effective depth ratio as per IS 456 is 20, and for the simply cantilever beam it will be 7, and for the continuous beam it is 26. And once the span is greater than 10 meter, then we have to compute the L by D ratio. For the simply supported beam it will be 20 into 10 by span, and for the continuous it will be 26 into 10 by span. So let us discuss the another codal provision, that is the slenderness limit for the beam to ensure lateral stability. So for the lateral stability, code suggests that for a cantilever beam, the clear span clear distance should not exceed the value of 25 b or 100 b square by d, and for simply supported or continuous beam, the clear span value should not exceed the value of 60 b or 250 b square by d, whichever is less, where b is the width of the beam and small d is the effective depth of the beam, lc is the clear distance. So for simply supported and continuous, we have to remember that our clear span or clear distance should not exceed the from this minimum of this value, whether 60 b or 250 b square by d, and in case of cantilever beam, our clear distance should not exceed the value of 25 b or 100 b square by d. So here we can see that 25 b or 100 b square by d, whichever is less. For solid slab, code suggests that the span to effective depth ratio for one-way slab it will be same as the beam. But in case of two-way slab, so what is one-way slab? So our larger span to the shorter span ratio is greater than 2, then it is one-way slab, and it will, if the value is less than 2, then it will be two-way slab. So in case of one-way slab, the same provision we have to take as beam, that is suggested by the in the clause 23.2. But in case of two-way slab, we have to find the span to overall depth ratio, and this span we have to take the minimum shorter span. So here code suggests that for slab spanning in two direction, the shorter of the two spans should be used for calculating the span to effective depth ratio. Similarly, second clause is for two-way slab of shorter span up to 3.5 meter with mild steel reinforcement, the span to overall depth ratio given below may generally be assumed to satisfy the vertical deflection limit for loading class up to 3 kilonewton per meter square. So for in case of one-way slab, we have to use the shorter span, and the span to effective depth ratio is same as whatever is suggested by for the beam in clause 23.2. So for the two-way slab, we have to find the span to overall depth ratio for in case of slab. In case of one-way slab, it will be the span to effective depth, but in case of two-way slab, the deflection criteria is span by overall depth, and for mild steel, the span to overall depth is 35, and for the continuous slab, it will be 40. And in case of high grade of steel like Fe415 and Fe500, so just we have to multiply this value by 0.8. So if I multiply for the simply supported beam, so 35 into 0.8, so it will be 28, and for the continuous beam 40 into 0.8, so it will be 32. So one thing we have to remember, in case of two-way slab, the shorter span is used, but the here we have to compute the span to the overall depth ratio, and in case of one-way slab, we have to compute the shorter span to the effective depth ratio, and that is same as for the beam. So if I discuss the problem, so for a continuous slab of 3 meter by 3.5 meter, so here we can see that the larger span is 3.5 meter and shorter span is 3.3 meter. So according to this span, shorter span, we have to compute the vertical deflection limit. So for a continuous slab of 3 meter by 3.5 meter, the size, the minimum overall depth of the slab to satisfy the vertical deflection limit is, and mild steel reinforcement is used. So we know that as per IS 456-2000, as per IS 456-2000. So firstly we have to check whether this slab is a one-way or two-way. So as I told you, the longer span to the shorter span ratio, if I compute, so it will be 3.5 by 3, because longer span is 3.5 meters, so 3.5 divided by 3, so it is 1.16, so it is less than 2. So it is the case of two-way slab. Case of two-way slab. And in case of two-way slab, the code suggests for the mild steel reinforcement, so the shorter span ratio of shorter span to overall depth for continuous beam, it will be 40. So here we can write the shorter, let us assume the Lx be the shorter span, or L shorter divided by D is equal to 40. In case of simply supported, it will be, here we have seen that it will be 35, and for the continuous it will be 40 for mild steel, and for other higher grade of steel we have to multiply by 0.8. So the minimum depth can be computed as D is equal to shorter span divided by 40, and the shorter span is 3 meters, so 3000 divided by 40, so it will be 75 mm. So the option C is correct. Minimum depth is, overall depth is 75 mm. So in case of two-way slab, our ratio of longer span to shorter span ratio should be less than equal to 2, and for in case of one-way slab, our longer span to shorter span ratio should be greater than 2. So firstly we have to check which type of slab. If it will be the one-way slab, so then we have to take the span to effective depth ratio as per the beam. Means for a simply supported beam it will be 20, and as per the for the continuous beam it will be 26 once the span is less than 10 meter, or if the span is greater than 10 meter, then 20 into 10 by span for the simply supported beam, and for the continuous beam or slab it will be 26 into 10 by span. But here the in case of two-way slab, so in case of two-way slab, code suggested that the shorter span to the overall depth ratio should be 35 for the simply supported beam, and it will be 40 for the continuous beam when mild steel reinforcement is used. If higher grade of steel like Fe 415 or Fe 500 is used, then this ratio is multiplied by 0.8. Means in case of simply supported, it will be L by capital D will be 28, and in case of continuous beam it will be 32. So let us take the another problem. This is the reinforced cantilever of span 4 meter, has a cross section of 150 by 500 mm, and if checked for lateral stability and deflection, the beam will option A fail in deflection only, fail in lateral stability only, fail in deflection and lateral stability, and satisfy the requirement of deflection and lateral stability. So we have to check the whether the this beam is fail in deflection or fail in lateral stability or fail in both, or satisfy the requirement of deflection and lateral stability. So for the lateral stability, for lateral stability, so for the lateral stability, code suggests that for lateral stability as per IS 456/2000, clear span should not be greater than 25 B or 100 B square by D, whichever is less, and this clear span effective for the cantilever beam. So if I compute the clear span, so LC should not be greater than 25 into width of the span is given 150, so 150 or 100 into 150 whole square divided by D, so D is 500 mm. D is 500. So LC should not be whichever is less, So if I compute the value of clear LC, so it will be LC is equal to 25 into 150, so it is coming 3.75. so LC should not be greater than 3.75 meter, or 100 into 150 whole square divided by 500, so it is coming 4.5 meter. 4.5 meter, so whichever is less means LC should not be greater than 3.75 meter, but in the question the clear span is 4 meter. So clear span is 4 meter means it will be fail. So here we can write fail in lateral stability, because according to IS 456, for the given situation or condition, our clear span should not be greater than 3.75 meter, but here is given 4 meter, so it will be fail in lateral stability. Similarly, if I check for the deflection, so for deflection criteria, so for cantilever beam, code suggests that L by effective depth should be 7. So our span is 4 meter, so 4 meter means 4000 divided by effective depth is 500. Here the effective depth is 500, so it will be it is coming 8. So once again it will be fail, because L by D should be 7, here 8, so fail in deflection criteria also, means this beam is fail in both lateral stability and deflection criteria. So our option C is correct, fail in deflection and lateral stability. Because for the deflection the cantilever beam L by D should be 7, but it is coming 8. Similarly for the lateral stability, so our clear span should not be greater than 25B or 100B square by D, whichever is less. So we have computed the value of 25B or 100B square by D. So the minimum value we have taken, that is 3.75 meter, but in the question it is given the clear span is 4 meter. So it will be fail in both deflection as well as lateral stability. Another question, this is I have taken, that is for a simply supported beam of span 15 meter. So it is 15 meter, which is greater than 10 meter. So the minimum effective depth to satisfy the vertical deflection limit should be. So firstly we have to compute the for simply supported beam L by D is equal to 20 into 10 by span, because our span is greater than 10 meters. So 10 by 15, so it will be 200 divided by 15, so 13.33. So L by D is coming 13.33, means our span to the effective depth ratio should be less than equal to 13.33. So we can write our span by effective depth ratio should be less than equal to 13.33, or we can write D must be greater than span by 13.33. So D must be greater than, span is 15 meter, so 15,000 divided by 13.33. So it is coming 15,000 divided by 13.33, so it is coming 1125 1125.28 mm. So minimum effective depth is equal to 11.25.28 mm, or 1.125 meter. So if I see the option, so our minimum effective depth should be greater than or more than 1 meter. So here effective depth minimum effective depth is equal to 1.125 meter.